Victims of paedophile coach Barry Bennell have hit out at the world of football after he was found guilty of more charges of abusing children. He's now been convicted of a total of 43 offences against 11 victims. Those were between 1979 and 1991, while he was working for clubs including Manchester City and Crewe Alexandra. Well, let's go live now to Liverpool, where we can speak to former footballers Steve Walters and Chris Unsworth, who were brave enough to speak out about Bennell. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks ever so much for speaking to us here on Sky News. First of all, to you, Steve, your reaction today that he's been found guilty of these 43 offences?
It's total relief, to be honest. It's been such a long process. After all these years, the old he's had over us. Just fine to get justice, you know, for myself and all the other guys. We're just so glad it's finally over, and he's going to get his sentence he deserves.
Chris, how difficult was it to come out in the first place and to share your story?
Yeah, it was very tough early on. I saw Andy Woodward on TV. I only had to see his face and I knew what it was on about. And I knew that it was time to unburden what I've been carrying for 35 years. And that was a process that started that last year.
Steve, describe to us, if you will, the kind of impact that his actions have had on your life and the lives of so many others over the years.
Catastrophic, to be honest. It's affected my relationships. Struggled to show affection towards people. Just your whole life. Struggled to sleep. And obviously ruined my career as well. Really, you know, it's, how can you carry on trying to play football when something like that's happened to you? It's virtually impossible.
And Chris, I imagine for you, it's a very similar thing.
Yeah, a little bit different, because obviously Steve made it as a footballer. I actually turned my back on football at the age of 14 or 15. I just walked away and just had enough of it. Luckily, I was a half-decent golfer, and I pursued my career in golf, which took everything away, really, and took me away from the horrible things that it has done to me.
Steve, at the time, did people speak out about what Barry Bennell was doing? Was it a matter that they weren't believed, or were people too frightened to speak out because he was in a position of such authority?
To be honest, talking out, speaking out, back in them days, it just wasn't an option. Anybody that did try and fight him off or speak up, they were just thrown out the club. He used to use tactics of saying you were a thief, or he'd mess you about, dropping you out the team or playing in the wrong position. Talking out and telling somebody way back then, it was never heard of child abuse. So there was just no option whatsoever.
Chris, do you think there are now big questions for the world of football after what's happened here?
There are questions that need answering, but it's not up to us to ask them, really. We've got justice today, but there are some questions that does need answering.
When you saw people start coming out and talking about the abuse that they had suffered at the hands of Barry Bennell, what was your reaction? Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. As a child, what he did to us, and he'd done to a lot of other lads, obviously we never talked about it, but we knew what sort of scale this was going to be. And still, you know, there's a lot of lads out there that have not been brave enough to speak out, or they might not want to speak out, but this really is the tip of the iceberg.
Steve, do you think lessons need to be learnt now?
Yeah, definitely. Lesson does need to be learnt to make sure this cannot happen again. So hopefully things can get put in place, and us as the Offside Trust will help that.
Going forward now, how do you feel looking back, this to you, Chris, knowing that something could have been done at the time and yet it wasn't?
Yeah, it's a very tricky question to answer, really. We at the time only had one goal, and that was to become a professional footballer, so we just put ourselves there and we just had to go through what we had to go through to get to our goal. But we just had to do it, really.
And do you feel the same?
Yes, me, yes. Yeah, of course I do. What happened to us has happened to us. Today we finally got justice, and now, you know, all we want to do is make sure sport, especially football, is a safe place for our kids, really.
Chris, do you think that the world of football has changed over the years? Do you think it's a different place that it once was?
I think it is a different place, but I think it's still not as safe a place as it could be. That's why hopefully the Offside Trust we can embark and work with other football clubs and make it a lot safer place. It can be a lot safer.
OK, Steve Walters, Chris Unsworth, thanks ever so much for your time and for sharing your story with us.